Hello, my name is SDGreene, and I'm pleased to give this brief overview of initiatives and referenda in the state of Arizona. An initiative is the process voters can use to propose new laws or amendments to laws or to the state constitution. A referendum is the process voters can use to veto a law or parts of a law. Both require gathering enough signatures from registered voters to get an issue on the ballot in an upcoming election. The process for each of them is similar. I won't go into too much detail because this is just a general overview, but the Secretary of State's website has a link to an online initiatives and referenda guide, which explains all the steps in great detail and should be read by anyone that is considering either of these ballot measures. There's also a guide for circulators, the people actually circulating the petition and gathering signatures, that should be read and followed as well. The basic steps are to form or be willing to form a committee that must consist of at least two people, a chairperson and a treasurer. The committee will be the official sponsor of the bill or the referendum of the bill or the proposed initiative, rather. The treasurer is legally responsible for all campaign finance information. There is a guide for that as well. Then the committee applies to the Secretary of State's office for a serial number and to obtain an official petition form for the initiative or referendum. The guide I mentioned gives specific instructions on how the form must be completed so that people know what they're signing on that petition and so that their signatures will be valid. Then they need to register any paid or non-resident circulators before circulating any petitions and collect the required number of valid signatures. Once they have enough, then they file the required number of valid petition signatures on the approved form by the applicable deadline. The required number of signatures will vary based on, first, what type of ballot measure is being filed, and second, how many people voted in the last gubernatorial election. So for an initiative on a constitutional amendment, they need 15% of qualified electors. So the total amount of people who voted for governor in 2022 was 2,559,485. So the required number of signatures for a constitutional amendment proposal is 383,923. For a statutory amendment or a new law, they need 10% of qualified electors, which would be 255,949 signatures. And for a referendum, they need 5% of qualified electors to sign the petition, which would be 127,975 people. For deadlines, the initiative deadline is 4 months before the next election, and for a referendum, it's within 90 days of the House session adjourning. So these are very different from each other in a few ways, but they are very similar in a lot of ways too. So they're different in that the initiatives are proposing something new, while referenda are trying to remove something in the law that already exists. They have different deadlines and different signature requirements, and they obviously serve different purposes. However, they're similar in that the rest of the procedures that they have to follow are very much the same. They both involve gathering petition signatures. They both pass with a yes vote once they make it on the ballot. And they also have similar advantages and disadvantages. So for the advantages, they both act as a check on the legislature's power and give people a say in how their government is run and how their tax dollars are spent. Referenda can overturn laws that are unpopular or undemocratic, and initiatives can get laws or amendments on the ballot that lawmakers had not considered. The disadvantages of initiatives are that they can result in poorly drafted or even unconstitutional laws, since citizens must vote for the text that was printed on the petition. Also, if many proposed initiatives end up on the ballot, people may not have time to make an informed decision about them before voting. Money can be an issue too, since proposing or defeating an initiative or a referendum can be expensive, meaning that ballot measures with less funding are less likely to get on the ballot, let alone pass. And then finally, there are people who are critics of the fact that this bypasses representative democracy. meaning that they're worried that the majority might prevent the minority from having a voice. There's a risk that minority groups could be drowned out by the majority vote. However, that is still up for debate. There are many examples of how just having these processes available has been beneficial. For example, in 1981, Arizona was the only state without a Medicaid program. Petitioners had just started the initiative process when lawmakers got the message and Medicaid was enacted. The United States and most individual states are governed by representative democracy. We elect representatives who are then supposed to act on our behalf. Initiatives and referenda, however, are examples of direct democracy, where people can impact legislation directly by passing their representatives. Our national founding fathers felt a representative democracy was better than direct democracy because they worried about the tyranny of the majority, like I was just saying, and they also worried about whether most voters would be informed enough to make good choices on complex legal matters. Arizona's constitution, however, was written in a different time and by people who believe that putting more power in the hands of people prevents corruption and lets people make their voices heard when their representatives aren't listening. The Arizona Constitution is very detailed in how people should be protected from the government wielding too much power. So in my opinion, having a representative democracy with the option of these ballot measures of initiatives and referenda creates the best of both worlds, and one that definitely preserves the spirit of the original Arizona founders. I hope you have found this helpful and informative. Thanks for watching.